Welcome to the Environmental Psychology Groningen podcast. On this podcast, we talk to researchers in our department to learn about the research they're doing and to learn about different facets of environmental psychology. With us today, we have Thijs Bouman, who is an Associate Professor here in Groningen and who recently co-authored a paper about The Hague becoming the first city to have a fossil fuel advertising ban. So welcome, Thijs.
Thank you.
So in January, The Hague banned fossil fuel advertising, and that has gotten a lot of media attention. So first, can you just explain what a fossil fuel advertising ban entails?
Yes, of course. Yeah, so basically, as the name already says, it's banning advertisements for, in this case, products and services with quite a strong fossil or carbon footprint. So for products and services that have a big impact on the environment and climate change. Mm-hmm. And it can be, of course, at the national level or at a larger level. In this case, it was specifically within The Hague and The Hague jurisdiction. Specifically, it was a ban within the public spaces of The Hague, preventing advertisements for instance, flight vacations, cruise vacations, combustion engine cars, fossil fuels, to be in these public spaces advertised.
Okay. Can you tell us the reasons for banning fossil fuel advertising, like what reasons motivate this kind of ban, and then what impacts can be expected?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the main reasons is it's a bit odd that if you as a government or as a society try to fight climate change and mitigate climate change, that you at the same time also sort of promote actions that actually contribute quite strongly to climate change itself. Mm-hmm. So I think one of the main reasons is sort of this discrepancy between, on the one hand, these aims to fight climate change, on the other hand, actively promoting the purchase or advertising these kind of products and services that contribute to it. So I think that's the main aim. It's also, advertisements are there to convince people to buy certain products. Sometimes they say to inform people about certain products or the presence of certain products, but of course they're also aimed at sort of selling these things, right? Mm-hmm. So an advertisement aims at convincing other people this is something I need, and this is also something that's normal to do within a society or to buy within society. Mm-hmm. So to increase interest in these kind of products. One of the aims of such a ban is to prevent this sort of influence from happening. Right. So to make sure that people are not steered in that direction of constantly buying these kind of products and services. Mm-hmm. And with regard to the question, what impact does it have? So, advertisements have been there a long time already. People know many of these products. They are quite ingrained in the whole system, etc. So it's quite hard to fight those influences. And by just banning advertisements, it will not have an immediate impact that people think, now those advertisements are gone, so never buy these products again. Right. But what advertisements quite strongly do is they sort of normalize these kind of products. So if you see it everywhere that people fly to their holiday destinations, if you see everywhere that cruise ships are the normal way of having vacations, people just don't consider those things normal as a given and something that is also quite acceptable within society. Whereas, based on what we earlier said, they contribute also to a big problem. Mm-hmm. And it's mostly also to change people's way of thinking about these products and services. A small ban like in The Hague, it's questionable whether it will have a huge impact on direct consumption patterns immediately, because it's quite small in its scale. So if you in the public spaces don't see these advertisements, but if you're on your smartphone, for instance, scrolling the internet, you will be bombarded with these kind of advertisements. If you had another municipality, you will see the same things. So it's questionable how consistent this message is comes across, so that people actually change their purchases immediately, but it also sends out a very powerful signal. So it also communicates that the municipality basically says, well, we say that we fight climate change, and if we say we fight climate change or want to fight climate change, it's basically unacceptable to promote the exact opposite behavior. So in that sense, it has a very powerful sort of symbolic function as well. And I think through that, also by expanding this ban, so it can motivate others to do the same, it can have a huge impact and can have a very big impact on sort of changing these dynamics in how we perceive fossil-based products or fossil-intensive products, and contribute to this transition towards a more sustainable or climate-friendly society.
Yes. So you were speaking a little bit about advertising impacting norms. Can you describe maybe more specifically how a ban on fossil fuel advertising will affect people's norms?
Yeah, I think basically now advertisements really strongly set norms, right? Mm-hmm. So it really presents to you, this is a very desirable behavior, something you may want as well, or you basically present this is the thing to strive for. If you want to go on vacation, go to this tropical beach far away where you need to fly to, or go on a relaxing cruise ship, or I don't know, in the case of fast fashion, buy clothes every season again and again and again, and the more the better, and these kind of things. So in that sense, advertisements really strongly set norms. They communicate to people what's normal in society. They give people impressions of what other people think, so that they inform people about what's desirable and what people want. And by banning this, you basically sort of take away this influence. So you remove this sort of artificial created idea that all of these things are normal in society, and in that sense normative. Anything on top of that, so by municipality or government clearly communicating this is something that we don't accept, and we don't think it's okay to promote these products which have a heavy impact on society. You also, as a government, set a strong norm or a clear message that, that you disagree with this, and that is actually a harmful behavior and not something that should be considered normal, acceptable, and be presented in such a way.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier about advertising being around for a long time, and in your paper, there are some comparisons between this fossil fuel advertising ban and bans on advertising of tobacco products. Can you explain this comparison a little bit more?
Yes, of course. Yeah, and I think you have tobacco products, but you also have, for instance, for high-fat products or high-sugar products. There have also been advertisement bans. I think it basically the principle or the idea behind it is similar, right? So it's sort of focusing on a certain behavior that advertisements promote, which is well known to have negative consequences, either for an individual, either for society, or for both. And in the past, it has been shown that, for instance, tobacco advertisement bans or advertisement bans for health products or unhealthy products, that it has been effective in reducing the consumption of these kind of products. So in that sense, there are parallels. It's about an undesirable behavior and a behavior that is considered normative or acceptable within society while it has negative consequences.
So why do you think that this ban in The Hague has received so much media attention?
I think one of the main reasons why it received a lot of attention is because it was considered quite controversial or quite a bold step to take this action, something I think which has been discussed also in different governments, municipalities, also the national government. So we were also consulted to advise the government earlier on this specific issue. But I think hardly any legislator or government dared to implement it in such a way. So really through their legislation rather than just in a contract or something like that. So I think it has been considered quite a bold step. And for that reason also, it received a lot of attention. Also because a lot of governments were quite hesitant in implementing these kind of things. So being afraid for lawsuits and these kind of things. And that The Hague dared to take this step. And actually there was a lawsuit by tourist organizations saying, well, this is not legal to ban advertisements for our products and services. And the court said that it is legal and that's the ban, well, that they don't have to change the ban. Right. So it also shows to other governments and legislators that this is a possible option, a feasible option. And I guess it might also have an impact on others. So I think that's also a very big win for
yeah, definitely. Yeah. So as I think you mentioned, some of the restrictions of the ban are that it's limited to The Hague, obviously, and to public places, so you could still see ads in newspapers or online. So, and as you also said, your paper argues that the law will spark wider societal debate and have greater impact. So what wider impact might the ban have?
Yeah, I think it's a very important point. So it's also something when you ask about the real impact, where I didn't touch upon yet, but I think so. On the one hand, you have these more direct impacts that are anticipated. So what we also talked about, can you expect really that people will stop buying these products immediately when you ban advertisement for that product? Well, of course not, because so many influences still remain there. But it's also, of course, a very powerful message that a legislator sends out. So it says, well, basically, if we strive to mitigate climate change or address climate change, we think it's unacceptable to actively promote these kind of products and services. So it sends out a very strong message to a wider population, but also to other governments. Hey, this is something you can do, something where we stand for, something where the people we represent stand for, and therefore also communicates a very strong message about what society thinks about these kind of topics.
Yeah. I don't know if you know of any similar bans being implemented or proposed in the Netherlands or elsewhere, but in general, what do you think the chances of other places pursuing their own bans depends on?
Yeah, I think so. So they have been implemented, but also, as I said, typically not through legislation, but more like contracts and these kind of things. So I think there have been different municipalities also in the Netherlands, but also worldwide, which banned advertisements for instance, meat products or other fossil-intensive products and services, but they're not through law.
Right.
I think what I also said earlier, I think what holds a lot of those legislators back is the fear for lawsuits. And I think for that reason, this recent lawsuit that took place in The Hague, so the people fighting this ban, and actually that The Hague was, by court, said that they were right in their decision to implement such a ban. I think that could inspire a lot of other parties to do something similar. So I think in that sense it could have quite a big impact also in terms of stimulating or motivating others to do the same, because it basically shows you can say you're not allowed to do so, because now it has been said, at least in the Netherlands, it's something that is feasible to implement. And I think that might motivate a lot of other municipalities, maybe also national government or other local governments to do the same.
Yeah, it being upheld in the court really shows that it can have a lasting impact
indeed.
and be effective. Yeah. And then in terms of the opposition to the ban, I think you had mentioned something about it being from industries, not really from the public, and that it was important to maintain that difference about where opposition is coming from.
True. Yeah, so indeed. So now the opposition was really from the tourist organizations, who of course have quite an interest in advertising their products and services. It's basically the things that they typically advertise which are banned, so flight vacations, cruise vacations, and they are not allowed to do that anymore. And indeed, I think it's very important to make this distinction that you have on the one hand the parties who are involved and also sort of affected by this ban directly, by that they're not able to promote their, at least these specific products and services, because they could still promote sustainable ways of going on vacation. And that they maybe logically complain about this ban because they are directly affected by it. But that these complaints hardly come from society, so from the general public. So you see also, we collected data ourselves on this topic as well, that there's a by far larger group that supports such a ban than the group that opposes to it. So, and there has also been polls by newspapers and other research organizations which show that actually the support for these kind of advertisement bans is quite large.
Okay, yeah. Is there anything else that we haven't covered or that you think we should add?
Good question. Didn't think about it. No, not directly, to be honest.
Okay.